sheets tangled. Chief, shirt unbuttoned, poured another drink. Nora, draped in a silk robe, watched him. The air hung heavy, the silence punctuated by the clinking of ice. Chief's phone buzzed, shattering the illusion. He glanced at the screen. His wife.
Hello, my love.
His voice dripped with forced affection. Nora's smile widened. Chief's wife's voice, high-pitched and demanding, filled the room. It was a sound that had become all too familiar in their household, a constant reminder of the tension that simmered just beneath the surface. Her words were sharp, each one a dagger aimed at the heart of the man she once loved. Nora tuned it out, focusing instead on the way his jaw tightened with each word. She had learned to read the signs, the subtle shifts in his demeanor that spoke volumes more than his words ever could. The way his eyes would narrow, the slight twitch at the corner of his mouth, all indicators of the storm brewing within him. He spoke in clipped tones, his eyes darting to Nora every few seconds. Guilt or something else? The conversation ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. It was a silence filled with unspoken words, with the weight of secrets that threatened to crush them both. Nora's mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of the puzzle that was their life. Chief tossed the phone on the bed, running a hand through his hair. The gesture was one of frustration, of a man at the end of his rope. He sat on the edge of the bed, his shoulders slumped, the weight of the world pressing down on him. Nora watched him, her heart aching for the man he used to be, the man she still loved despite everything.
Family matters. The words hung in the air, a stark reminder of the responsibilities that bound them together. It was a phrase that had been repeated countless times, a mantra that had lost its meaning in the face of their struggles.
His voice tight. Nora raised an eyebrow. She had heard that tone before, the one that signaled he was about to say something important, something that would change the course of their conversation. She braced herself, her mind racing with possibilities, each one more daunting than the last.
Always a good time for those? The words were meant to lighten the mood, to bring a sense of normalcy to their chaotic lives. But they fell flat, a stark contrast to the tension that filled the room.
She purred, moving closer. Her voice was soft, a stark contrast to the harshness of the earlier conversation. She reached out, her hand resting on his arm, a gesture of comfort, of solidarity. In that moment, they were just two people, trying to navigate the complexities of their relationship, trying to find a way back to each other. The shadows of their past loomed large, but in each other's arms, they found a glimmer of hope, a promise of a better tomorrow. He pulled her close, burying his face in her neck. She could smell his cologne, expensive and intoxicating.
It's just my wife, she's expecting again.
Nora stiffened.
Another one?
She asked, her voice deceptively light.
Yes, another girl, the doctor thinks. I need a son, you know? Someone to carry on my legacy.
His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken desires. Nora traced circles on his chest, her mind racing. Another child, another obstacle. She had to play her cards right.
You deserve an heir, Chief. Someone worthy of your name, your wealth.
He groaned, pulling her closer.
You understand me, Nora. You always do.
She smiled against his lips, her eyes cold and calculating. Yes, she understood him perfectly, and she knew exactly how to use his desires to her advantage. Later, nestled in her own apartment, Nora dialed a number.
Ify, it's me. We need to talk.
Her voice was tense, urgent. On the other end, Ify's voice was a soothing balm.
Nora, what's wrong?
Nora, pacing her small living room, spoke with determination.
It's Chief. His wife is pregnant again, another girl.
Ify gasped.
Another one, but that's his fourth daughter.
Nora stopped pacing, a slow smile spreading across her face.
Exactly.
What are you thinking, Nora?
Ify's voice was laced with concern. Nora's smile widened.
I'm thinking this changes everything. This is my chance.
Ify hesitated.
Nora, be careful. You know, Chief, he's a powerful man. He could crush you.
Nora laughed, a sharp, brittle sound.
He's already crushing me, Ify, but not for long. Not if I have anything to say about it.
So, what's the plan?
Ify asked, her voice resigned.
It's all about timing, and a little bit of luck.
Nora outlined her scheme, her voice cold and calculating. It was audacious, risky, but with potentially high rewards. If she played her cards right, she could secure her future and her freedom. If he remained silent, her apprehension palpable even through the phone, Nora's plans had a way of spiraling out of control. Days later, Nora waited. She had been here before in this very cafe, sipping the same lukewarm coffee, her eyes darting to the door every few seconds. The anticipation was almost unbearable, each tick of the clock echoing in her mind like a countdown to an uncertain fate. She had set her plan in motion, every detail meticulously planned. Her desk was a testament to her dedication, covered in blueprints, notes, and carefully organized documents. Each piece of paper represented hours of work, sleepless nights, and a relentless pursuit of perfection. But then, the call came. The phone rang, shattering the silence of her focused environment. She hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest before picking up the receiver. The voice on the other end was calm, almost too calm, delivering news that would change everything. It wasn't the news she was expecting. Her face fell, the color draining from her cheeks as the words sank in. She sat down heavily, the weight of the unexpected information pressing down on her shoulders. This was not part of the plan. Her plan had hit a snag, a major one. Frustration bubbled up inside her, threatening to spill over. She crumpled up a piece of paper in her hand, the sound of it tearing echoing her inner turmoil. This was a setback she hadn't anticipated, a wrench thrown into the works of her carefully constructed scheme. Her carefully constructed facade crumbled, replaced by a cold fury. Her calm demeanor shattered, revealing the storm of emotions beneath. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms as she struggled to contain her anger. This was not how it was supposed to go.
How could this happen? The question echoed in her mind, a relentless refrain that offered no answers. She had been so sure, so confident in her plan. How had it all gone so wrong?
She whispered, her voice shaking with suppressed rage. This wasn't over. The words were a promise, a vow to herself that she would not be defeated by this unexpected turn of events. She would find a way to overcome this obstacle, no matter what it took. She refused to let it end this way. Determination set in, hardening her resolve. She stood up, her movements purposeful and deliberate. There was no room for doubt or hesitation now. She had to act, and she had to act fast. She would find another way no matter the cost. Her mind raced with possibilities, each one more daring than the last. She pored over her maps and blueprints, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she searched for a new solution. Failure was not an option. She would adapt, she would overcome, and she would succeed. Nora hung up the phone, her mind racing. She needed a new plan, and fast. The stakes just got higher, but so had her resolve. She wouldn't be deterred. Not now, not when she was so close. She paced her apartment, her anger slowly giving way to a steely determination. She would turn this setback into an advantage. She would use it to fuel her ambition, to push her further than she ever thought possible. A knock on the door startled her. She wasn't expecting anyone. The night had been quiet, almost eerily so, and the sudden sound shattered the stillness, sending a jolt of adrenaline through her veins. She had been lost in her thoughts, the silence of the house wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. But now that blanket was ripped away, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. Cautiously, she approached the door, her heart pounding in her chest. Each step felt like an eternity, the distance between her and the door stretching out impossibly long. She could feel the cold floor beneath her feet, grounding her in the reality of the moment. Her mind raced with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. Was it a neighbor, a stranger, or something far worse? Who could it be at this hour? The clock on the wall showed it was well past midnight, a time when most people would be asleep. The late hour only added to her unease, making the knock seem even more ominous. She tried to recall if she had heard any footsteps or voices outside earlier, but her mind was a blur of anxiety and fear. Peering through the peephole, she saw a figure silhouetted in the hallway light. The dim illumination cast long shadows, obscuring the person's features and making it impossible to identify them. The figure stood still, almost unnaturally so, as if they were waiting for her to make the first move. The silence was deafening. broken only by the sound of her own breathing. Her breath caught in her throat. The figure outside seemed to sense her presence, shifting slightly as if to get a better view of her through the peephole. She felt a chill run down her spine, a primal fear taking hold of her. This was no ordinary visitor. There was something menacing about the way they stood, something that made her instincts scream at her to run. It was him. But how? She hadn't seen him in years, not since that fateful night when everything had changed. The memories came flooding back, each one more painful than the last. She had thought she was safe, that she had left that part of her life behind. But now, here he was, standing on her doorstep, a ghost from her past come to haunt her. He wasn't supposed to be here. She had taken every precaution, changed her name, moved to a new city, and cut ties with everyone who knew her. She had built a new life, one where she could finally feel secure. But now, all of that was unraveling before her eyes. How had he found her? What did he want? A million thoughts raced through her mind. She tried to piece together the events that had led to this moment, but it was like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. She felt a growing sense of dread, a certainty that whatever was about to happen would change her life forever. She needed to think, to come up with a plan, but her mind was a whirlwind of fear and confusion. Was he here for her? The look in his eyes, even through the peephole, was one of determination. He had come for a reason, and she had a sinking feeling that it wasn't a good one. She thought about calling the police, but what would she tell them? That a man from her past had shown up at her door in the middle of the night? Would they even believe her? Did he know the truth? The truth she had buried so deep, the secret she had sworn never to reveal. If he knew, then everything she had worked so hard to build was at risk. She felt a wave of panic wash over her, the walls closing in as the reality of the situation set in. She had to do something, but what? She had to make a choice, open the door and face the consequences, or pretend she wasn't home. Each option carried its own risks, its own potential for disaster. She felt paralyzed, unable to decide. Her hand hovered over the door handle, trembling with indecision. She knew that whatever she chose, there would be no turning back, or pretend she wasn't home. She could try to wait him out, hope that he would leave if she didn't answer. But what if he didn't? What if he decided to break in? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. She felt trapped, caught between two equally terrifying possibilities. The decision could change everything. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. This was it, the moment of truth. She had to choose, and she had to choose now. Her future hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of a knife. She closed her eyes, took one last deep breath, and made her decision.